Hello, scholars, and welcome to Lesson 3-1.2, Chinese Philosophies. Continuing from our last lesson, I'd like to review what a philosophy is. Philosophy is a belief system. Last time we talked about religions, ideologies, and philosophies. It's a belief system which seeks to answer difficult and unknowable questions. Now, philosophies are different from religions because when religions come across difficult or unknowable questions, they tend to rely on a god or gods to explain those questions. But philosophies take a different direction. They will use logical deduction and human experience to try to arrive at a conclusion to these problems. Now, within China, we see in the Middle Ages the strong influence of three Chinese philosophies, but there was in fact a fourth. Prior to the Warring States period, Chinese leaders followed a philosophy called legalism or legalist. Now, within these philosophies, rulers would be the ones who wrote or dictated the laws to societies, and their subjects were expected to follow those laws because they were the law. This is a overly simplified version of this philosophy. It is deeper than this, but that is the basics, that the rulers of society were the law of society, and that people were supposed to follow their rules because they were the rulers. Now, over time, the Chinese people are going to develop a much more complex belief system that guides their actions, and in fact, they take on three different belief systems. Now, why this comes about is tied directly into that Warring States period. Now, there were many rebellions during this period, and many of them were prompted by a dislike of legalism, those who did not want to follow the law of the Zhou dynasty. They rebelled, they broke off, they created their own societies, and this was partially because of a dislike of legalism. Now, it was during this period that Confucius and Lao Tzu created alternative belief systems. Now, their followers are going to follow the teachings of these two philosophers and develop those systems in greater depth as the Warring States period is ending. And particularly, we see with Confucius and Confucianism, that by the end of that period, it is widely known, and it is the dominant philosophy in China. So what is Confucianism? Well, I'm going to overly simplify this, as I will the others as well. According to Confucius, the rulers of a society should be the best and brightest members of that society. He did not subscribe to the idea that the rulers should be the family of the previous rulers. He didn't like that. He thought that was a path towards serious problems. And so he believed that there should be a civil service test, a test that everybody was eligible to take that would open the door to positions of power within society. And those who passed the test would be invited to participate in the lowest level of civil society and work their way up from there. Now, the underlying principle here is that only those who are truly knowledgeable and capable will arrive at positions of real power. And then the primary responsibility of those in power is to take care of the weak, to take care of those with less power. And then conversely, the primary responsibility of those who are considered weak by this society, those who have less position of power, is to honor and obey those who have passed these tests and moved up in society to high rank and high position. That is the basics of Confucianism. Honor those in a position above you and take care of those in a position lower than you. It was true in their government sense. It was also very much true within the family as well. The head of the family, the individual in charge of that family, would take care of everybody below them. And everybody below them would in return honor and obey the head of the family. And we see over here how the two really did align. We had a head of the family and we had a head of society that together had the responsibility of taking care of those weaker and the privilege of being honored for that. Now, another belief system that arose during the same period but won't rise to prominence until much later is Daoism. These are based upon the teachings of Lao Tzu. And Lao Tzu really believed that there are no natural rights and wrongs. There is nothing that is good and evil. They both exist in the same world, and to a certain extent should be accepted as the natural state of being. And that human society as a whole can avoid wrongs occurring by being better in tune with the nature of things. If you push people or the environment too far beyond its natural state, this is where problems occur. And if you allow your environment and people to exist within their natural state, then you can all live in harmony. Evil only occurs when nature and the natural process is avoided or ignored. So when society recognizes this, when governments recognize this, then it can most effectively rule. There's a wonderful book that came out a while ago, The Tao of Pooh. If you're at all familiar with Winnie the Pooh, he's very much live and let live. He does not criticize, he does not disagree. He just lets everybody be who they're going to be. No bother, as Pooh would say. The final of the three philosophies is actually not a Chinese philosophy in its origin. Buddhism will become the dominant philosophy in China from about 100 BC on into the present. But it began in India, where, with some irony, it is no longer practiced to any great degree. Buddhism really becomes adopted by the Chinese and made into a Chinese philosophy. And it teaches primarily that suffering in life, anything that makes you unhappy in life, is at its core due to our desire for things that do not last, things that are transient, things that are passing. Our desire for money, our desire for popularity, our desire for material possessions, our desire for relationships. These are all passing things, and they are all the cause of our suffering. And if we recognize that these are passing, and therefore we do not develop a close attachment to any of them, we can achieve much greater happiness, or at least avoid suffering. The key to Buddhism is to give up those desires which are leading to suffering, and therefore to truly achieve happiness. That is Buddhism. And again, with Buddhism, Confucianism, Daoism, I just gave you a very surface look at those three philosophies. They go much deeper than presented here. But I wanted to introduce them so that we can understand Chinese history moving forward. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.